82 6PR, where you don't miss a thing. Instead, we're going to talk to John Brodie from Vim Sustainability. G'day, John.
Hi there, Jason. I believe the oven turning on over there at the moment. Summer coming.
Would you believe today? Not so much. Today's been a really interesting day because it's been overcast. It's only, I think, around about 22 degrees at the moment, which is a bit surprising. And then the actual forecast for the rest of the week is cloudy and occasional showers.
It can't be long though, mate, before that oven starts.
Oh, it'll start up all right. And I tell you what, if we are getting a bit of rain at the moment, one of the best things that we could do over here is to actually try and capture or sequester as much of it as we can.
That would be a very good thing, considering we're the driest continent on the planet. We're very bad at managing water.
We really only live around the outskirts, don't we?
Oh, mate, the amount of water that we waste. You remember growing up, playing water games out on Tar Road with the hose?
Yeah. I tell you what, I was at a family function yesterday, and I looked over the back fence of where we were, and the guy just behind my brother's place has got the most massive water tank I've ever seen in my life.
What, above ground or below?
Yeah, above ground water tank. It was just incredible, and you could see all of the pipes coming down off his shed roof and off his house roof. This is a guy who is serious about collecting water.
Well, obviously the cost of water is going up now. In Sydney recently, I think there's looking at, I think it's about a 30% increase in water costs. Remember, the infrastructure is where a lot of these systems are really falling down now. If we look at energy costs, initially when we designed energy systems with coal-fired power stations, the coal-fired power station was the problem. The problem now is the infrastructure that distributes that generation of power and that collection of water, and of course the distribution of sewage. And so we need to really move away from that, I guess you call centralized, stick a power station 500 miles from anywhere or a sewage plant 500 miles from anywhere and then ship everything either way. That's got to go if we're going to do something about our efficiency, because we're losing so much in our transmission.
I was talking to a guy yesterday who's right into sustainability and all of that kind of thing, and he said something to me that I actually was aware of, but it had never actually clicked. The penny had never dropped. And he was talking about the amount of water, and we're talking rainwater and runoff from our gardens, that drop into the stormwater systems. And I guess I'd always just assumed that they all just dropped into the same kind of sewage water, but they don't. This stuff that goes into the stormwater drains off the side of the road then just drains straight out into our rivers.
And our oceans, yep. It's completely wasted, and we've really got to do something about that, because what's happening is it's also affecting the moisture levels in the ground deeper down, because you remember before we came here, there was a nice soft, what we'd call absorbent surface, and now it's covered in tar and concrete and metal and all these other materials that stop the water being absorbed into the soil, and then we just capture it all instead of using it. I just can't believe that we don't use it. We then discharge it out into the ocean. We have this terror in this country of drinking rainwater, yet over 3 million people in Australia drink rainwater every day, and no one's actually died from it yet. I mean,
I would have assumed that, that the stuff that's going into the stormwater drains is actually pretty clean, really. It's rainwater, it's a bit of runoff from the lawns. Apart from the occasional moron that goes and drops paint or terps or something else into there, some horrible chemicals, overall I would have thought that stuff would be really reasonably easy for the Water Corporation to actually pull back and clean up a little bit.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of to and froing going on at the moment about that, and water runoff. There's a lot of vested interest here, Jason. There's a lot of industries and corporations that don't want us to use the water that runs off our roofs and off our ground. They want to actually charge us money to provide their own water. So
right.
But if you look, the water falls on a roof of a building. You have a first flush system. I have rainwater at my farm. I've been drinking it for 30 years. I'm still here. If you have a good, well-designed rainwater capture system and some simple filtration to get rid of things like a bit of oil off the road or a bit of few twigs and leaves, this massive amount of water can either go back through our toilets, can go back through our taps for drinking, can go back through our gardening and irrigation systems. But no, we just flush it, and there's a lot of councils as well out there that want to make it really, really difficult to recycle the water. And then we can't do anything with our sewage either. Our sewage is not allowed to be treated. In most cases, you find it very difficult to treat your sewage on site. ship it all the way over to somewhere else and treat it over there.
John, are there any councils that you're aware of in Australia that are actually now starting to say for any new developments, the new houses, that they must actually do things like putting in rainwater tanks to use for your lawns and your flushing, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, look, in New South Wales we have the BASIC's house rating tool, and that's a resource management tool that all new houses and apartments have to comply with, and it does have a requirement to provide on-site rainwater capture and storage. It's not a lot, but you do have to have a certain amount of rainwater capture and storage, and also low water use appliances.
Do you ever think that we'll see the rules change around selling properties where you actually have to implement these kind of systems before you can actually sell a house?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's around the corner, and I think that people have to be aware that it is around the corner. Like in Canberra, it's been there for a few years in the ACT. Whenever you put a house on the market, you have to provide a rating for that house that says this house is rated at this much energy use. We've got mandatory disclosure coming in here federally all around Australia on commercial buildings. It's just been implemented this month, 2,000 square metres and above. If you want to rent your building or sell it, you have to do a full audit of that building, an energy audit, and you have to rate the building, and you have to display that on the sale or lease documents, and you have to provide a whole lot of strategies for mitigating energy use in that building so that the person that buys it or leases it knows that what the performance of the building is and what they would need to do to make it improve. And if you don't do that, there's some very heavy fines.
John, I'm thinking that we'll probably have people listening right now who, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but the same people who are climate change deniers, who think that the carbon tax is purely just another impost that is completely unnecessary, who would look at what you've just described and say, that is yet another instance of government bureaucracy getting in the way and costing me money.
Well, it's not meant to. It's meant to say, hey, you're actually wasting so much money. There's so much money being wasted by people that own and run buildings, and buildings being houses and everything above that. So much money being wasted. All of these systems really are trying to say is, hey, you're wasting money, and here's a way to really save money. Now, look, of course there's a vested interest of the government to do something about carbon, because there's all sorts of, we're the only country in the world that seems to deny that there is climate change. But there's a vested interest there because it's a really, really cost-effective way for the government to do something about mitigating carbon emissions, is to make the user pay. And that's the way it will go. And I don't think there's enough of that, in the sense that how many people would have, let me put it like this, a 3-minute shower. If you had a 3-minute shower and it, for instance, cost you 10 cents, and then there was a meter on your house that said, now you're having a 5-minute shower and that's going to cost you $197. How many 5-minute showers would we have?
Yeah, not a lot.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what, there's not enough of a scalability where, look, we don't care how much you earn or what you do, it's how much you use. That's what we've got to look at. We've really got to do something about how much we use, because obviously you use less and you'll pay less. And that's why the carbon tax hasn't been sold really, really well. It hasn't been mentioned, the fact that all we're trying to do is get you to use less. If you use less, you'll pay less.
I guess there's two types of costs here as well. There's the personal cost that we incur from actually buying these types of services and the water and that kind of thing, but there's also a cost to the environment and society of us overusing this stuff.
Oh, absolutely, and there's some pretty interesting information. There's the McKinsey Report that was put out about 3 years ago that puts a cost of the environment, a cost of the damage to the environment. It's in the trillions. It's in the trillions and trillions of dollars. We actually can't quantify it. The cost to the environment about the way that we use it, and that's a cost that we can't quantify. But I was at a conference about 3 years ago where one of the Kennedys was talking over at Adelaide, actually. He's a legal, one of the Kennedys, he's a legal practitioner in environmental defence, and he said it's really interesting, like without water and without the air and without earth, we actually don't have an economy. So all of the financial side of things doesn't exist anymore if we don't look after these items. And we're running out of them. We're running out of these items. So we need to be more smart about the way that we do things. There's plenty there. It's not like there's not enough. There's plenty there. We just have to be smart the way we use it.
What if we fix all these things and save the world and it's all for nothing, John?
Oh, it won't be all for nothing else. There'll be some value somewhere, probably to our children, our grandchildren. Just imagine, though, our children or our grandchildren in 50 years' time, if what we're saying is correct, and they go, they didn't do anything about it.
Yeah. Dad, I can't believe you used to use petrol. What was that all about?
Look what they've given us. And, you know, like, we all insure our house, don't we? We all insure our house and our car on the risk that something might go wrong and hope nothing does. Carbon tax is an insurance to say, look, we hope it doesn't go wrong, but if it does, we've done something about it. We've tried to mitigate it. It's no more free-for-all like there's been for the last 100 years. They've got to pay the piper.
That's it. John, before I let you go today, I just wanted to quickly touch on double glazing in houses. Is this something that is a sensible thing, a cost-effective thing that we should be doing in Australia? Or is it just something that really is primarily used in super, super cold places?
No, look, double glazing... If you said to me, I'm building a house and what's the single best bang from the buck that I could have, I would say some insulation in the walls and roof, yes, and that's mandatory. The next thing I'd say is double glaze your windows. Don't do anything else, just double glaze your windows, and you'll find your comfort levels across the season will dramatically improve, and your energy use, your resource use will dramatically decrease.
So I don't need tinting?
Point of the house.
No tinting or anything, just double glazing?
There's got to be a specific specification. You can get clear double glazing, but the glazing technology now is so good that we can get almost clear double glazing, slightly less than single glazing, but still get really good either solar heat gain reduction or U value, which is the loss of heat or cooling out of the building, and of course in. But I mean, there's a lot of dynamics here and technical stuff I don't want to bore the listeners with, but getting the right type of double glazing is really important, and you don't have to get dark double glazing. You have to just get the right type of specification. But it's the weak point. If you put a thermal camera on a house, you look at the window, that's where all the heat's coming in or coming out.
Ballpark the figure for me. How much more is it going to cost me per window? Is it double?
Look, it's coming down rapidly. If you go to the UK, it's dearer to buy single glazed windows in the UK than double glazed.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and that's because they all go, single what?
Yeah. You nuts?
In America, they have triple and quadruple glaze, and the first thing all your listeners are going to go, yeah, but it's colder in America. Well, actually, over 40% of America is actually the same climate as Sydney or even warmer. Brisbane. Miami has very, very hot in Miami, and they have very, very humid conditions. But they have all double glazing because they can that way they can manage the heat loss and gain how they want through the right specification of the glass in and out of their house. I think it should be mandatory, and the Building Code of Australia in the last year or so has really upped the performance of glass, and in many, many cases it is mandatory now to double glaze commercial buildings.
John, you're from a company called Vim Sustainability. What is it that you guys actually do?
Look, what we do is we improve the built environment by using passive and low-tech solutions. That's our key. We don't do typical air conditioning. There's thousands of companies out there to do that. But we look at climate, we look at comfort, we look at passive and low-tech solutions, and then, if we have to, we look at trying to make heating and cooling methods more efficient if they're going to be more traditional. And we work around the whole side of the built environment, from design right through to operation.
Fantastic. Now, if any of our listeners would like to read up a little bit more on you, you've got a website.
Yeah, we have a website. It's www.vim, V-I-M, as in Vim and Vigor, .net.au.
Terrific. John, we'll talk to you again next week.
Look forward to it, mate.
Cheers, mate.